Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Monir El Azzouzi from easymedicaldevice.com. And today we will help you to register your medical devices in Israel. So I have with me Liat Nadel, the COO of LS Marketing and Registration in Israel. And she will help us to understand how to register the medical device that you have in this country and what are maybe also the situation in this country. So Liat, welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast.
Hello from Israel. First of all, congrats on your nomination.
Great, thank you.
It's an honor for me to make the podcast with you. A few words about me and the company.
Yeah.
I live and work 20 years in the medical devices field. I managed various companies, departments in Israel. In regulatory affairs, QMS, business development, and import-export. Therefore, we can give multidisciplinary services for our customers. We speak, me and my team, we speak Hebrew, Arabic, English, French, Spanish, and German.
Great.
We have offices in Germany and Israel, so we can communicate with worldwide manufacturers without any problems. And we are a multicultural and multilingual team. And
I think it's great. So, I think, as you mentioned, languages, I think it's really important to really be able to talk with a lot of people and communication with a lot of people and companies. So, which is really great.
And when I'm saying talking, what is more important is to understand the mentality and the business mentality in each country. So we are I'm working for many years with Europe, USA, and with worldwide companies. So it's really easy, and it's easier to make business when you speak the language and you know the mentality.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm French. I worked for German companies, for Swiss companies, for US companies, and I confirm that the mentality is completely different. So you have really to understand that, and so to be able to make business, and also that they are trusting what you are doing. So which is something great.
And the Middle East mentality and the Israeli mentality, of course, is totally different.
I completely agree with you. Let's focus now on Israel. So Israel has a market size that is starting to grow. So we have maybe let's focus on business. So what is the market size then of Israel, so that maybe for the listeners that are trying maybe to understand if this is good to go and to register products in Israel. So what is the market size for it?
Okay, so first of all, Israel is well known as a startup nation worldwide. Let's say that the healthcare technology in Israel is estimated at approximately, grosso modo, $6 billion.
Okay, wow.
And medical devices account for $2.4 billion, and pharma $3.8 billion.
Okay, so it's really a big market.
The Israeli market is divided in 60% are distributors and importers.
Okay.
Approximately 1,700 companies, and 40% of the medical devices market are importers and distributors. Manufacturers.
Okay.
Local manufacturers, and the size of the life science sector is approximately 1,600 companies. If you check the subsectors in the life science sector, approximately 600 companies are in the MEDEV companies. Approximately 200 companies are IVD companies.
Okay.
And the highlight is the digital health, the future. And after Google and Apple, the government in Israel is supporting Israeli companies generally and financially. Just to give you a number, they invested in approximately 500 companies around $600 million.
Wow.
And the number of companies in Israel of medical devices is constantly increasing.
I think, as you mentioned,
not only in the last year or 2 years.
it's true that
For the several, let's say, 20, 30 years, it's a really, you can see a real increase in the number of the companies.
Yeah, I know that. I was looking also at a lot of companies, and some startups, some innovative startups are really coming from Israel, and it's providing really a lot of information, a lot of products that are really innovative, and yeah, we see that there is really a boom in this region about the creation of devices, which is great also for that.
If you see now the normalization with the UAE, the Emirates, one of the points that the Emirates do start now with Israel is, the business in Israel. They see in Israel a big potential, and one big sector that they are going to invest in Israel, and vice versa, is the medical device sector, the life science sector.
No, I think it's great. So in terms of Israel, then, as we have this community, we have this need, this investment, etc. So what about the regulation? So do we have an Israeli regulation for medical devices, or is Israel maybe using regulation for other countries to register or to regulate the products? So how is it working there?
First of all, in Israel, of course, yes, we have in Israel the Israeli Medical Devices Law. It has passed in the Israeli Parliament in 2012.
Okay.
The Israel adapted actually the revolution and the big changes in Europe a few years ago. And of course, the changes in the FDA. But the focus is on Europe and FDA. So actually, the Israeli regulation and the medical devices law is a mixture. It's like a puzzle between the regulations from Europe and the FDA, mostly, and the Israeli regulations. It's a mixture. You can in the medical devices law, we have what you say recognized countries like such Europe, Western Europe, Canada, USA, etc. Eastern Europe, for example, the notified bodies and the RA approvals from Eastern Europe will not be accepted in Israel. You cannot register products which are having the approvals from Czech Republic or Poland. It is a problem.
Okay, so it means that if it's not a CE marking, for example, if you have a CE marking, it depends from which notified body you got the CE marking, or it depends from which country you are. So what is it correct?
It depends. First of all, regulatory affairs. What matters are the documents.
Okay.
And the Ministry of Health in Israel and the reviewers in Israel need to see that the notified bodies are from recognized countries.
Okay.
And the recognized countries are indicated in the medical device law. And actually, also the classes in Israel are exactly like the classes in Europe. They adapted the classes, and it's like a mirror in Israel. Plus, a long checklist depends on the product, depends on the indication of use. It depends if it's sterile, not sterile, all the separations that we have also in the MDR and in the US. So actually, the Israeli Ministry of Health are working according to Europe and the additional health authorities, worldwide authorities from recognized countries, plus our local regulations.
Okay, so
Now,
if I have a CE marking, then it's not automatic that I will be it will be accepted by the Israeli authority. So does it mean that the Israeli authority will have a scrutiny on this, or they will not authorize your products at all?
first of all, when I have a new customer from example from France or Germany, I ask them to send me the basic documents. If it's class 1 non-sterile,
Okay.
The basic documents needed for registration in Israel are ISO 13485.
Okay.
Plus the declaration of conformity. Then I check if it is really a medical device and it is indicated in the declaration of conformity.
Okay.
Then I can move forward. Starting class 1 sterile and up, I ask for CE. You need to, the manufacturers around the globe, they have to demonstrate and show me a CE certificate. And if I see that the CE certificate is okay, and the doc is okay, and the ISO is okay, and they are indeed medical devices, then I continue with the long checklist and my long questions to the manufacturers. We have each dossier in Israel has to be checked as a different world.
So it's for example, here we are talking about CE marking. So for FDA, it's the same. You are checking the product is registered within the US, and it goes to the same scrutiny, if I can say.
First of all, if I have an American company, American manufacturer, I have Ministry of Health ask us to register, and the medical device law, according to the law, we register the products with the FDA only.
Okay.
Okay. If it is a manufacturer from Europe, EU company, then we register the products with either only with ISO and DOC, or with CE, ISO, DOC, plus the other documents. Class 2B, Class 3 need to demonstrate also risk analysis, CE examination in aesthetics, for example, and clinical trials, and a long list that we have to submit to Ministry of Health of Israel. Okay. But the basic should be CE, ISO, and declaration of conformity. If it is an American company, FDA 510K approval, and the FDA establishment, company registration. If it's a company from Canada, I will register it with the Canadian approval. Australia, the same, all are recognized countries. So this is the easy part. Then we have a long checklist, and sometimes they say it's easier to register in Europe than in Israel.
Okay.
We have really strict regulations here because of the MDR.
Okay. So if I want to register in Israel, I suppose it's the same as in Europe. We have the need for having an authorized representative, an importer, etc. So do you need the same in Israel? Do you need to have an established company that is representing you there and that can import the products for you there?
First of all, in order to register the products in Israel, you have to be an Israeli company.
Okay.
I mean, you have two pathways. Either you allocate a distributor, and the distributor can make the registration in Israel. You cannot make a registration in Israel if you are a foreign company. And the second option is the Israeli registration holder. It's similar to EU authorized rep. We are, for example, Israeli registration holders. And the added value of the Israeli registration holder that the manufacturers stay independent. They are the legal owner of the registration approval, meaning they can tell me, Liat, please forward this approval to X, Y, or Z distributor. So, and I think it's a perfect way to stay free and independent. But you have the second option to allocate a distributor. So you have two options.
Yeah. I think we have the same thing in Europe here, where we can say, okay, my importer is also my authorized representative. But as I always say, I don't recommend that at all. I prefer that you are taking a separate authorized representative and separate importer, because if tomorrow you have an issue with your importer, you can easily change it. But the authorized representative in Europe is marked on the device. It's mentioned specifically on the device, so it's more difficult to make all the changes and everything. So I think for Israel it's the same. You have maybe better to appoint an authorized representative that will hold the registration, and an importer outside that can be notified when the registration is done. So specifically.
Absolutely right. And sometimes, you know, there are we register, for example, we are Israeli registration holder. It's the same as Israeli authorized RA rep. Okay, and sometimes when I represent big companies, big manufacturers, huge manufacturers from around the globe. Sometimes they have many products, and they choose to, for example, give some products to one distributor and the other products to a second distributor. So that's why it's good that they are the legal owner of the registrations.
No, I think it's
they
good.
Don't have marketing legal and marketing issues with the distributors.
No, I think it's good. So in terms of
they give me they give me only the POA, the power of attorney,
okay,
to make the work, and then they are the legal owner and they're free.
Okay, that's great. So you know that, for example, if I register in the US, if I am a European company, I register to the US, or for example to Brazil, sometime I have the Brazilian authority or the FDA that is coming to audit me. So is it the same for Israel? So do we have the Israeli authorities that comes to audit us in Europe?
No.
Okay.
As I indicated before, the Israeli reviewer and the Ministry of Health of Israel and the Amar division. The Amar division is the medical devices division in the Ministry of Health. They see the CE, they check the documents, they check the notified bodies, and for them it's enough. But if you have a recall, if you have some problems and issues with your products, or if you want to change your products, etc., then we communicate with the manufacturer directly with Ministry of Health. In case of recalls, for example, the manufacturers have to send us an email or update us as soon as possible. We have to contact Ministry of Health Israel 48 hours approximately after the recall, and then they open an investigation. So they can decide not to sell the product in Israel or to stop selling the product in Israel. They do it on a daily basis.
Okay.
And after they close the investigation, and after they are sure that everything is okay, then the importer, the distributor, can move forward and sell the products.
Okay, so in that case, as you will be, if I can say, if you are representing the company in Israel, so are you subject yourself of an audit from those authorities?
Of course. First of all, we have ISO 9001 and Ministry of Health. First of all, we know that we live with Ministry of Health Israel since 1992.
Okay.
We have and know all the reviewers, and we know all the managers there. And it can happen that Ministry of Health Israel talk to us. Actually, they usually talk to us if there is a recall,
Okay.
and they can come to and visit, make an unexpected visit to the importer to check what is going on there regarding the products and the investigation. So this happens a lot.
Okay. I think
And actually, I am I'm the representative, so I am responsible for the manufacturer in Germany or in France. For actually, we are working in cooperation and collaboration, but we, LS Marketing and Registration, as the regulatory rep in Israel, we do the ongoing communications with the Ministry of Health in all case of problems, change of products, follow-up, PMS, everything.
no,
From A to Z.
I think it's
A
good.
to Z, yes.
So, are you, as you've said, LS Marketing and Registration, so you are mainly helping medical device manufacturers. I suppose you are helping external manufacturers to register in Israel, but are you also helping Israel manufacturers to register maybe somewhere else in the world?
Yes, of course. We have a global network. And we have experts like us in Germany, in Europe, in the US, Canada, in Asia, etc. And we do these services. And as I said before, since we are not only regulatory affairs experts, but also business development experts and import experts, and I'm also a jurist, so we can offer one bundle of services, and we can give the manufacturers from Israel and vice versa from around manufacturers around the globe the easy way to do everything under one roof and one package.
Yeah.
What I wanted to add one more issue regarding the registration in Israel.
Yeah.
There are two pathways in Israel. First of all is the importation.
Mm-hmm.
And the second pathway is the selling and marketing in Israel to hospitals and health funds, etc. You cannot sell your medical devices in Israel without registering the products for several years, like a permanent registration in the Israeli Ministry of Health registrar, which is similar to UDAMED.
Okay.
You see here the parallel, the similarity, like in Europe. So they took exactly the changes and the revolution and the problems, and they adapted it to Israel. So some customers sometimes say, yes, I want to import some products to Israel without registering for many years, for 5-6 years, and it's impossible. First of all, you have to register the products for permanent registration. Then after that, after 120 days, according to the medical devices law, you can start importing the products without any problems. And the review of the dossier in Israel take approximately 120 days, but sometimes it could be up to a year, but mostly it's approximately 120 days.
I think it's good. So it means that your company is really helping to develop businesses in the region. So I suppose you are finding, for example, some importers that can be importing products for the companies and whatever, if I can say, they need, if I can say, to register in the region, which is I think a great service here. Just one question, as we mentioned. So we talked about the fact that you are registering maybe outside of Israel. So is there a market where a lot of Israel products are going? Actually, is there a market where we say the Israeli products are registering a lot of their products in this region or this region or this region?
Actually, since, as I said before, since Israel is a startup nation and we have really innovative products. As I said before, for example, the digital health and some other innovative products. I know from my experience, and it's 20 years, that we sell Israel worldwide. I mean, all countries want and need our products.
Okay.
Even Africa, India, we are worldwide and worldwide known as innovative country, very innovative country.
Nice.
And the opposite from Israel, we look importers for innovative products.
Oh, great. I think it's really an important market that people should consider if they want to go there. So, and as mentioned, so Liat, you can help them to be developing their business in Israel, and it's something that they should consider. So I will really recommend people to contact you if there is any need to register in the region, so that they can see if first this business is viable or not. So great.
And since we live this market in Israel, it's not a big country, but we do big business. And since we live this market, the medical device market in Israel for 20 years, more than 20 years, we have approximately between 200 and 250 customers in Israel. We can allocate distributors. We have very personal and good connections with our customers, and we are also well known in the local market because it's not like USA. It's we have 9 million inhabitants in Israel, so everyone knows each other. So
yeah. I mean, I think even the medical device community is really a small world. So we know each other, and we know who can help for different things. So which is great. So yeah. So let's say that if people are really interested, they can contact with you. So where can they contact you? So is there a specific place?
First of all, we are very active in the LinkedIn.
Okay.
And of course, they can enter our website and send us emails and with all the requests, of course. And we are doing webinars. They can find us in our webinars, but we are let's say active, very proactive in the LinkedIn, in the digital media, and they can find us in our website, of course.
No problem. So I will put all the links and the information on the show notes. So if anybody wants to contact you or to look at what you can help them to do, so that everything will be on the show notes. So please go on the show notes and look at that directly. Okay, Liat. So thank you for all the information that you provided. I think it was really valuable because we have really to understand the market where we want to register, and here we got all the information, which is, I hope, valuable for everybody. So if you are listening to this episode on the podcast, on your podcast provider, so please don't hesitate to provide provide your review on it. So just to say that you liked it, and if you have any comments, and also if you are looking at that on your YouTube channel, so you can place your comments or questions if you want, and I will forward them to Liat so that she can answer to you. Okay, so Liat, really thank you for your help, and thank you for all the information, and I wish you a nice day.
Thank you very much, and don't remember, it's a win-win situation with our services, because we do the work and you are the legal owner of the registrations.
Exactly. So I recommend that.
Thank you very much, and it was an honor again to make the podcast with you.
Thank you. Okay, I wish you a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.